Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel where today we are going to do another update. And this is a little bit of a surprise update because I did not expect to be here right now. I thought I was going to be on vacation, but I'm not. My younger child actually picked up a virus, and in an effort to not spread that virus around, we delayed the departure for our vacation. So I'm still here, and it was definitely very stressful. But on the upside, I did have a little bit more time to read the books that I wanted to finish before going on this vacation, which ended up being really useful. So, you know, we'll take the positives where we can. But to jump in to those books that I did, finish or DNF, because we have some DNFs in this. Let's start with Where Peace is Lost by Valerie Valdez. This is an adult science fiction book where we're following our main character of Kel, and Kel is on this planet that is not her home planet, and she's got some dark secrets that we don't totally know about, like what exactly they are in the beginning. But this home planet is being threatened by this war machine from another planetary government kind of thing. And so Kel volunteers to go on a mission to help stop this war machine, even though she knows that that means that her secrets could come out and destroy her safe haven. And the story goes from there. And I really liked this. I didn't love it. I don't think it was amazing. However, it's definitely got like cozy sci-fi vibes. And I liked the characters well enough. I didn't love them, but they got the job done. And like the story itself was kind of just cozy. Like it was it did feel very familiar. It didn't feel particularly groundbreaking, but it was done well in that familiarity. So like it just felt nice. Like I enjoyed reading it. I will say that like I thought that the world building, what there was of it, was actually done pretty well, although like that's not the focus, unfortunately. And there's some interesting, like I had some questions about how some of this technology works, but it's okay. That's not the point of this. It's definitely not a hard sci-fi. Like, and then Kel's our main character definitely has some quirks and repetitiveness in her thinking, which does get a little bit old. She has some mantras that she uses to help calm herself, which end up feeling a little bit repetitive, and also because she's trying to there's some things that she really needs to think through, and she's like kind of working her way through slowly. Like it feels kind of like she's saying the same thing over and over again sometimes, although it is like slightly different. But again, it can get a little bit repetitive. But other than that, I do think that I liked watching her growth and like her coming to her realizations. And I don't know, it just like, again, it was just a very cozy little story. So I ended up giving this 4 stars. It is definitely on the low end of 4 stars, but like it's not something that I want on my shelf necessarily, but I'm really glad that I picked it up. I'm really glad that I gave Valerie Valdez another shot, and like I will be looking out for whatever she writes next, which is great because I DNF'd this book. Everyone on This Train is a Suspect by Benjamin Stevenson. This is the second book in an adult murder mystery series. I think it's called the Ernest Hemingway series, something like that. It's an interesting series in that the framing for the book is that our main character is writing a memoir about a time that somebody died. That's like what happened in the first book, and that's how it is in this second book as well. And for this one, the setting is that Ernest is like been invited to a writers' convention that is taking place on a train trip, and then somebody dies. Now here's the thing, I was really excited to pick this up because I loved the first book, but I will admit that that premise of being on a train, and especially with the writers' convention, I was like, oh, I don't know about that. like I'll keep an open mind. I'm not even gonna say that I'm wary about that, because like I'm gonna try really hard to have an open mind. But ultimately it just didn't work for me. And the fact that like in the first book there were a lot of like flashbacks, memories, and these kinds of things that really messed with the not like I guess it did mess with the timeline of the book a little bit in a way that was done really well. This one is very linear, and I was not quite expecting that. And then I got to page 100, which is where I DNF'd it. And there was a plot point that I saw coming from a mile away, and I was like, oh, please don't tell me we're not going to do that. And then I flipped ahead to page 200 and I saw, oh yeah, no, we're doing that. And I was like, okay, I'm out. There's just not enough here to hold my attention. And so like, what I will say is that I think that for me, what I like from books and murder mysteries and all of that kind of stuff, this just was not the tropes that I like. And unfortunately, the writing wasn't quite good enough to overcome the fact that this was a bunch of tropes that I don't like. So I don't necessarily think it's the writer's problem. I think it is more of a me problem. And to that end, like, while I did DNF this book a third of the way in, I would absolutely be willing to pick up the third book in this series if there is a third book, given like if there are tropes that I more like. So DNF, but not like I hate DNF, which is always nice. And then I DNF'd Lightspeed, People of Color Destroy Science Fiction Special Issue. I read the first 9 stories in this collection, and y'all, of the 9 stories, there was one that was above a 3.5 stars for me, and it was a 3.75, which is not good. And that's actually the only story that I even remember really much of anything about. And there were multiple stories that were below 3 stars. I DNF'd one of them. So what I was finding is that I don't reach for short stories anyway. It has to be done really, really well for me to connect with it. And I think that mostly because short stories aren't really my thing, that the number of short stories that are really going to draw me in, it's just going to be a very low number. So this was not it. I think science fiction especially is not going to be as much my jam. So instead of trying to slog through more in the hopes that I would find 1 or 2 stories that I really like, I just went ahead and DNF'd it. I will say that I think mostly I should just not read short stories unless I have a really specific reason to think that I'm going to like them. Like, for example, if it's a Shauna Maguire short story collection, I will pick them up because, like, I really do. Even the short story collections where I'm like, I don't really care about this, I still enjoy reading it because they still tend to be pretty good. Or, like, if it's a short story collection that's set in a universe that I really like, I would consider that as well because those tend to work better for me. But yeah, this is really unfortunate. And I'm actually very sad about it, and it was a really hard thing to DNF, but I did eventually get around to the thought that probably I should just DNF it. And that's everything. Like, I finished 1 book and DNF'd 2, but I did pick up a couple of others. Actually, let me start with my audiobook. So, Caliban's War by James S.A. Corey. I was listening to this on audio from my library, and I made it halfway before my audiobook returned to the library. So I'm back on the holds list, and so I'm halfway, but it's put off to the side for right now until my hold comes back through from the library, and then in which case I will happily pick it up again. But I did make it to the halfway point. I just didn't make it any further than that. And then the things that I'm actively reading, I'm actually reading 2 more short story collections. So let's start with the proper things and other stories. This is Shauna Maguire short story collection. This is her second. It's lovely. This book is so high quality. It's from Subterranean Press, and they do just such a good job. But this short story collection is going much better than the science fiction short story collection because it's Shauna Maguire, and I just generally like Shauna Maguire's writing. Not all of the stories have been to my taste, but even the ones that like aren't to my taste, they're still 3-star things for me. So things that I'm perfectly content to read, they just don't hit for me. But I have had like two stories so far that have hit. One that made me cry. So, like I'm doing better with this one. I'm about 100 pages in. I think I've read like 5 or 6 short stories so far, and I'm enjoying it. And then the other one is Fantasy Magazine's Women Destroy Fantasy special issue. This is also going much better for me than the science fiction. And I think it's because generally, like, honestly, fantasy is like my one true love. This is, I have always, always, always adored fantasy. I have learned to love science fiction, but it's not my first love. And so I think this is just a little bit easier for me to digest, I guess. I've read 6 of the 8 stories so far, and they're pretty good. They've all been between 3 and 4 stars for me. I think the quality is just lovely. So I'm enjoying my time with this one as well. And then because my audiobook, Caliban's War, went back to the library and I'm on the wait list and I don't know exactly when that's going to come back, I did decide that I wanted to pick up another audiobook. Now, I was, if you'll remember, in the middle of a different audiobook called Quackery about I think it's like the worst cures in human history or something like that. I was in the middle of that before my hold for Caliban's War came in, and I thought maybe I should go back to that. But that's also really episodic, and I didn't want to pick that up when I was also reading short stories that were super episodic. So I did not, that's still on hold. So instead, I decided to pick up An Inheritance of Monsters by Kate Colvin. And this is 100% monster erotica. And it is slightly awkward to be listening to this on audio, but we're going to roll with it. But the premise of this is that our main character is on a ghost hunter kind of team, and she gets invited to this super haunted house, and it's on this island that's isolated and everything, and she has to stay there for 30 days, and she gets in there and like all the monsters take notice. And they are very much like believing that she is their mate. So I'm a third of the way in. It is ridiculous. Like the plot holes in this are kind of like a mile wide and fantastic to behold, but like, y'all, like the plot is not the point here, so I'm cutting it a lot of slack. I have been going a little bit slowly through this, in part because like I do find it to be slightly awkward to be like at the grocery store and listening to an erotica. Also, like my attention's, I can't always listen to it because I'm trying to concentrate on actually getting my groceries, so it just doesn't always work. So I am going through this a little bit slow, but like for what it is, it's doing exactly what I wanted to, exactly what I expected it to, so I'm enjoying it and we'll continue on. And as for what else I've been doing, it's been a lot of Gems of War. I keep saying that, but like definitely the new obsession, although it should slow down at least a little bit because I finally finished all the kingdom quests, and so like I'm actually now fairly limited as to what I can do in a day. So we'll see if that like curtails some of that. I've also been playing some card and board games with my older child, so that like because he was very upset that we had to push back our vacation. So, and we've been trying new games, which has been really fun. And just generally puttering around the house and being a little bit of a lump, which has been kind of nice. So as for next week, okay, so I actually should be going on this vacation. So I do have to prepare for that, of course. I will probably continue on with Gems of War because that's been really enjoyable. As for my reading, these 2 books. So I'm going to try my best to finish this book before I leave. I only have 2 short stories. It should be fairly doable. And so I will finish this and I will leave it behind, obviously, so that I don't have to take it with me. This book, I will probably get a little bit further in, maybe, depending on how busy things get in, but I am not going to take this with me on vacation. It is a hardcover. It is heavy. It is actually a nice copy that I don't want to mess up by putting it into my suitcase. So this is going to stay behind. So I'm not going to finish it because I am 100 pages in a 500-page book, but we'll see how far in I get. I do have a couple of books that I am planning to take with me. I don't know exactly like what I'm going to feel like picking up when I'm on the airplane and when I'm there. So we'll see. It'll be a surprise for everybody involved. And as like once I get there, it's going to be a lot of socializing with my family, with my friends. And then I don't know what else, honestly, because like we're just gonna have to see how everybody is when we get there. But that is it. That is everything. That's my update. That's what's happening. So if you have any thoughts or feelings about anything I talked about in this video, please leave me a comment down below. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And that's it. So until next time, have happy reading, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!